after you've seen traumatic fractures, let's go to pathological fractures. Now, this is something that you will encounter in your practice daily, and this is something where you'll have to open your mind a little bit more because it is not going to be as simple as it looks. So, what is a pathological fracture? Basically, this is a fracture through an abnormal bone. This may not be because of high velocity injury, but could be associated with minimal or trivial trauma. So what is important is evaluation. You will have a patient with the X-ray, but you have to evaluate right from the beginning. History, maybe the pain is a history before the injury happened, and the injury was a trivial injury. On physical examination, well, you will not be able to examine much because the patient has tenderness, patient has a deformity, a swelling. And the radiographs, well, I feel that you need to do a full-length radiograph of the bone, one joint above, one joint below, and bilateral, because sometimes physis, unfused, these things can mimic fractures and you may miss if you don't compare to the other side. Now, often you need to do more than just fix the fracture. You have to understand the pathology. So when we talk about pathological fractures, you do not treat the fracture alone, but the pathology as well. Now you have to understand why this has happened. What could be the pathology? Is it infection? Is it metabolic? Is it a malignancy, or it is just a stress fracture? Now, when you diagnose this correctly, you will be able to not only fix the fracture or treat the fracture, but also the underlying cause. Now, because we are talking about pathological fractures, let's go to tumors, and we need to know whether this is a benign or a malignant tumor that is caused the fracture. This is called the Mankin's criteria, where you know the size of the lesion, the zone of transition, the cortical thinning or the periosteal reaction, and the soft tissue component. The size of the lesion usually is big when you are looking at a malignancy, and the zone of transition is narrow when you're looking at a benign tumor. The cortical thinning could be present in both, but the periosteal reaction is usually seen in malignant tumors like the osteosarcoma or the Ewing sarcoma. Soft tissue component is usually present only with malignant tumors. Now let's go to the common benign tumors that we see present with pathological fractures. The simple bone cyst. Here I have shown you the proximal humerus and the proximal femur because probably 90% of the UBCs are in these two locations and they present with pathological fractures. So you see a fallen leaf sign when you see this fracture. These fractures heal, but the cysts persist. When you see the proximal femur, even when it is not fractured and you see a patient with pain who has a proximal femur simple bone cyst, I think it warrants fixation because this is prone to getting a pathological fracture very soon. And most of these cysts heal after skeletal maturity. Now, let's see some cases where you had a pathological fracture, a very minimally, you can just see a small line there, no displacement. You decided to just immobilize this and it healed on 6 or 8 weeks of follow-up. You have one proximal humerus simple bone cyst that is fractured. You decided to conserve it and then you see how well it has remodeled and healed. One case, you had a large cyst. You can see the size of the cyst is a little big. The pathological fracture is there. Now, this will obviously heal by immobilization, but this will keep fracturing with physical activity or trivial trauma. What we decided was just inject a steroid and immobilize the patient, and it healed very well. Because just needling these cysts cause stimulation of bone healing, and they heal by themselves. The proximal femur, like I said, with or without a fracture, it always warrants a fixation. You have to fix the proximal femoral simple bone cysts. You use implants that are suitable for that patient. With or without bone graft is a call that you take during the surgery. Now, this is a distal femur simple bone cyst. This could have been conserved, but the surgeon chose to do a minimal invasive TENS nailing and has healed well because the TENS nail, when you just pass through the cyst, it stimulates the healing and the cyst heals well around the implant. Now, aneurysmal bone cyst. Now, this is again the second common cystic lesion that you see in pediatric patients, which is benign. And just like the simple bone cyst, the X-rays will be similar, but the MRI will clinch the diagnosis here. And as you can see in the figure here, that there is a fluid level. Even when a fracture happens and there is a hematoma within, the fluid level still is maintained, and you can understand that this is not a simple bone cyst with a fracture, but an aneurysmal bone cyst. 99% of ABCs are treated with percutaneous sclerotherapy. You do not need to operate them. You do not need a curettage. This is an example of a proximal humerus ABC, large in size. We did percutaneous sclerotherapy. First X-ray is on presentation. The third X-ray is 2 months after the procedure. and then you see after 1 year how well it has healed, and 2 years later, or I think 1.5 years later, it remodeled very nicely. Now, this is something that is a difficult or a challenging aneurysmal bone cyst, where the pelvis is involved, the acetabulum was involved. You can see the fluid levels on the MRI. Now, this is where you get tempted to do a curettage, put a bone graft, and make the patient asymptomatic as fast as possible. But even these heal on percutaneous sclerotherapy. Here I am showing you a proximal fibula where you have a cortical breach, not a frank fracture, but a cortical breach in the proximal fibula, which was in ABC, confirmed on MRI. We did a percutaneous sclerotherapy and see how well it has healed. So ABCs, I would say, do not require surgery unless they are refractive to maybe 6 percutaneous sclerotherapies, depending on the size of the lesion. The non-ossifying fibroma is what I call the touch-me-not lesion. Why? Because you don't even need to biopsy this. The simple bone cyst, the aneurysmal bone cyst, you need to biopsy to rule out a telangiectatic osteosarcoma, which presents similarly on radiographs. But a non-ossifying fibroma is very classical. You need not even get an MRI done. You can see it on the X-ray. You can see a fracture line through the non-ossifying fibroma. Immobilization, splinting, casting will heal, and it rarely needs a surgery. This is the example of a fracture through a non-ossifying fibroma, which healed very well on immobilization, and the patient is asymptomatic. Fibrous dysplasia. Now, this is again one common benign bone tumor that we see, and this could be either a single focal lesion or polyostotic. So, to check for polyostotic lesions, examine thoroughly, get multiple X-rays, differentiate it from an osteofibrous dysplasia and an adamantinoma. Now, this you do on the MRI and the biopsy. Even the osteofibrous dysplasia can be conserved, but an adamantinoma is sort of a precancerous lesion and it needs to be addressed correctly. Fixation with a bone graft is usually the treatment of choice because the bone matrix is so unhealthy that it may not just heal with immobilization. This is an example of a pathological fracture of the proximal femur, which was confirmed to be a fibrous dysplasia. It was fixed with a pediatric DHS and bone graft, and it healed well. Here you can see a lesion on the X-ray. You cannot, see the fracture very clearly, but the MRI shows a thin fracture line, and then it was treated with bone graft and tense nailing. Now, this is a large fibrous dysplasia of the humerus, which had to be addressed. You did a curettage, put a plate, put fibula strut grafts, and it healed. Now comes the dreaded part of the pathological fracture, the sarcomas. Well, if you see the X-ray that you see here on the screen, you will definitely not touch it because you know something is grossly wrong. You will then evaluate, investigate, and then take a call. So you immobilize first, make the patient pain-free, do a needle biopsy. If it is proven to be a sarcoma, you give the chemotherapy, and then you see the response to the chemotherapy. The fracture also heals well and the tumor consolidates. If the patient has a fracture in a proven case of sarcoma while on chemotherapy, you still immobilize, you need not rush into a surgery. You see the response of the chemotherapy and then take a call. Now, here there are two cases. The first one is the humerus, where there is a pathological fracture. Now, this was not diagnosed at the time when the fracture happened. A scan was done, MRI, biopsy. Patient got neoadjuvant chemotherapy. Luckily, the hematoma had not tracked into neurovascular bundle, and we could do a limb salvage surgery, where you can see there is a total humerus replacement done. The second figure is a femoral pathological fracture in a proven case of osteosarcoma who was on chemotherapy. Maybe 2 cycles were done. You can see some ossification around the tumor. Now, this again we have to evaluate and see how the fracture hematoma is tracked. On the MRI, you can see the large disease with hematoma going posteriorly. The neurovascular bundle is not easily identifiable. It is abutting. You had skip lesions also. So now this patient completes the chemotherapy and undergoes an amputation. So the call for limb salvage or amputation is not because there is a pathological fracture, but it is because of the response to the chemotherapy that the patient shows. So now the take-home message is that be suspicious when you see a fracture through a lesion. Don't be in a hurry to fix. Most frequently, it is a benign process and need not be fixed at all. Make a diagnosis first. Do the MRI, do the biopsy. Appropriate referral if the suspicion of a malignancy. And fixation of benign lesions is on an individual basis, which has to be thought and calculated and explained to the patient and then done. Thank you.